Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we're going to be checking out Payday 3. I've been diving into the early access period, and so today I want to give you all an overview of what the game is, as well as my first impressions about it. And so before we get any further in, I have to give a huge shout out and thanks to Payday for sponsoring this video. I greatly appreciate it. And we're going to get into everything about the game. I think firstly, because this is a third entry in a franchise, it's important to go over my background with the Payday games. And that's to say, this is my first one. I believe I played a little bit of Payday 2 years ago, but it was nothing intensive, it was nothing in depth. So this is truly my first experience with the Payday franchise. That said, if anything I cover is stuff that was in previous games and it overly, excited me or whatever, that's why, because I didn't experience this in previous games, so I'm coming at this with a fresh perspective, so hopefully that is interesting for you all to watch. Now let's start off with a pretty simple question. What is Payday 3? Payday 3 is a four-person cooperative first-person shooter where you play as, you guessed it, bank robbers. The game launches with 8 different heists for you to inflict chaos on. There's a ton of progression to go through, different weapons, way to mod those weapons. There's huge amounts of skill trees, I think over 100 perks in total. There's also deep customization with your own robber. You can heavily customize their look, all of that. So there's a lot to it. And before we get any deeper, what I wanted to talk about first is what, after my, experience with the game here, what my favorite part of it has been. And that is the freedom of approach. Now, when you hear that there's a game being made about heists and bank robbers, you probably think, oh, it's just going to be all out action, all out intensity. And it absolutely can be that. And you'll see in some of this gameplay that things get very hectic if you go on higher difficulties, if you push further into these heists, it does get insanely intense. But what really surprised me, again, as someone who hadn't played the previous games, and what really I enjoyed over the course of my time here, is that if you want, all but one of the 8 heists can be done entirely stealthily and without killing a single person. And I found that to be really cool and really enjoyable. It kind of makes it so that every map that you enter into for the first time is a puzzle. And that's exactly what my friends and I experienced. Right? You get in there, you start seeing which doors are locked, which ones are not, which ones you can lock pick, where the cameras are, where the guards are, what their patrols are, and all of this is stuff you can discover and kind of interact with to create that entirely stealth-based experience. And if you mess something up and a guard sees you, then you can start shooting everybody. But you can also do really cool things like on one of these maps, you can wait for the manager to exit their shift and start walking out on the street. You can grab her, come back around, and then if you enter in the back way and lock pick your way in there, throw her against one of the security sensors, and all of a sudden you have access to this room that otherwise would have taken you drills and thermite and stuff to break into, right? So it's really cool in that regard. I really like how if you want, as soon as you load in, you can go and shoot the first person you see. Or you can try and take that stealth approach and kind of figure out the whole puzzle of the map. Really like that. Another thing that did surprise me, at least based off of the premise of the game, is the perk tree and the kind of progression that you can do there. You hear bank robbers and you think there's just tons and tons of shooting, which there is, but you can also highly customize what your specific playstyle is going to be. Do you want to focus on movement and be able to traverse the map fast? You can do that. Do you want to focus on your guns doing even more armor penetration? You can do that. Do you want to spec into having this little sentry turret that can guard certain locations? You can do that. I think there's well over a dozen of these different trees that all focus on different elements of the gameplay, and so it's really cool that you can kind of choose how you want to play, as well as coordinate with your team about who wants to focus into specific things, and that can strengthen the overall composition of your group. It's not just perks though, you also have a bunch of different weapons that you can unlock and buy as well as mod. You can fully customize what the weapon's look is, as well as what attachments it has and what specific stats you're wanting to get. There's also more of a black market type of currency you can earn to buy specific pre-made weapons that have these cool skins on them and certain elements and stats. So that's a bit more of an end game focus. And as somebody who is a big fan of customization in any game I play, I was really pleased with how much you can do that for your character. Specifically with the masks, I know that's a huge part of the Payday brand, right? An icon. And in this, not only do they have really cool preset masks, like one I was using where it literally transforms your face from one of the Statue of Liberty to this cool skull design, but you can also choose a base model of a mask that's just, plain straight out of the factory, right? And then you can choose the paint scheme as well as the different markings on it, if there's any scars or gashes or things like that, to make it truly your own. And I can absolutely see somebody like myself really getting into that and trying to create the mask that I think looks the coolest or, fits a certain theme, whatever the case is. So yeah, overall, I've just been having a lot of fun. Because of all of those enhanced progression and customization elements, it makes the combat really fun because you get to interact with each of the different heist maps and all the enemy types in really unique ways. Like I mentioned before, that sentry turret was something that I was speccing into, and it meant that I could figure out where a lot of the cops would spawn. Sometimes they would rope down from the ceiling. I could lay a turret right where they're going to land, and it would take care of a lot of them before I even had to go there myself. Or if someone was specking into a sniper, let's say, then you can maybe take out some of these guys with the riot shields through their visor before they even get close to you and become a bigger threat. And speaking of the enemy types, that was also something I really appreciated was that it's not just these standard policemen that are coming in, right? Of course, they have those mixed in there, but you also have things like that riot shield user that I was talking about that unless you shoot through the visor, you're not going to get them. But you can also turn them around. If you throw a grenade, they'll face towards it. Then you can shoot them in the back. So really cool interactivity there. There's also enemy types like the person who uses a taser that'll shock you. A teammate has to get you out of that. There's a grenadier that will blow up when you kill them, or they'll start chucking grenades at you. There's like this juggernaut type that'll just rush towards you and he has a big minigun. That's a big threat. And by far the coolest one, and one that I was not expecting, is this enemy type they call the cloaker, which will basically, I think, run around the map invisible and then pop out. You'll hear this kind of screech and they'll run towards you. And if you don't take them out before they ninja kick you to the ground, then they'll just start pummeling you. And unless a teammate comes and knocks you out of that kind of stun phase, you're locked down. And so they're a really threatening type. They also look really cool. They remind me of a mix between the Splinter Cell operators and like a hunter from the Division. So that was really cool. And overall, the level of depth and complexity in these gameplay segments is really what hooked me. Like I said, the puzzle elements are great. I really like how the environment kind of fits into the whole puzzle. Maybe there's a certain code displayed in a room, but there's also another code in another room, and you don't know which one is to the computer you need to unlock until you try them both, or you figure out which one leads to which. And like I said, if you're doing that all stealthily, my friends and I found ourselves in these maps for well over an hour. And it didn't feel like a drag. It honestly didn't feel like that amount of time. We were just exploring everything, trying to stay hidden. It was a lot of fun. Not everything is 100% perfect, as is the case with pretty much any game. One big point of feedback I would give is on the UI, both across the menus and in the game. It seemed a little bit too complex and not well defined enough. But that's easily something that can be fixed in a post-launch update or just further down the line. There is going to be a lot of content added to this, and the good news heading into the launch of Payday 3 is that everything that makes up the core of the game experience is really, really solid, which means that the developers are going to have a really easy time iterating and improving on what is already here in the future. The one big recommendation I will give if you want to get into this game is that if you have friends who can play with you, as many as you can, up to 4, is going to be ideal. The game is built around 4-person cooperative gameplay. It will backfill your lobbies with bots if you don't have, a total of 4 people, but if you do, that's really going to enhance the experience. And that's certainly what I came across while I was playing. But, my friends, those are some of my thoughts and a look at Payday 3. I've really enjoyed my time with it so far. Once again, thank you so much to Payday for the opportunity for this. Because again, it really offered me something that I was expecting, but it also went above and beyond in many areas that really did please me. So I really hope you guys enjoyed, and again, you can check out the link down in the description below if you want to check Payday 3 out. But let me know your thoughts. If you're somebody who has played Payday in the past, if this is the first time you're being exposed to the franchise, let me know what you're thinking about this latest installment. That's going to do it for me today, though, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold, out.